All righty. I'm back live with Detroit and Michigan news. You can use like, share, and subscribe. I'll put the link if you want to come up. Let me put the link. StreamYard. I'm getting tired now. But I need to post these videos. Like, share, subscribe. Leave a comment, please. So, Michigan is sending 20 million to families as no strings attached guaranteed income program grows, and they doing this around the United States. A program giving direct no strings attached payments to families that are struggling to make ends meet is about to spread in the state of Michigan. Originally launched in Flint, the RX Kids program is now expected to expand to 5 counties in the Upper Peninsula after approved 20 million in state funding, reports Detroit Free Press. The program gives mothers 1,500 mid-pregnancy for things like food, prenatal care, cribs, or anything else they deem as necessary. After the birth of their child, the families receive 500 a month for the first year of their life, accounting to a total of 7,500 in cash payments. According to RX Kids co-founder H. Luke Schaefer, a similar initiative previously launched in Michigan brought immense benefits for families, but then child poverty ramped up back again after it ended. So that's good news you know, um, for Michiganders. Governor Whitmore weighs in on Harris VP decision. What did she say? Oh, this is a video.
You know what's brilliant? Boring. Think about it. Boring is the unsung catalyst for bold. What straps gold to a rocket and hurtles it into space? Boring does. Boring makes vacations happen. Early retirement's possible. And startups start up because it's smart, dependable, and steady.
We got to go through the commercial.
For nearly 160 years, PNC Bank has been brilliantly boring so you can be happily fulfilled, which is pretty unboring if you think about it. This week, top supporters of Vice President Kamala Harris are out on the campaign trail. Yesterday, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer held a rally for Harris in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania alongside Pennsylvania's Governor Josh Shapiro.
How good is Josh Shapiro? Well, he's gotten a heck of a lot done in over the last year and a half. And is another example of Democratic governors who believe in our three-part strategy. Get shit done.
Wow.
Get that done. That's the motto Governor Whitmer says guides her political life in her new book, True Gretch, which is out now. And with me now is Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Governor, thanks so much for being here.
Good to be with you.
Good to see you. So there's so much to talk about in this new book, which is, and I say this quite sincerely, a very fun read. A very fun read. And the reason I say that sincerely is because I read a lot of politicians' books. And that's not something I say very often.
Well, I'm honored. Thank you.
So I want to ask you about some news, and then I want to get to the book. Democrats cannot retake the White House without winning in that swath of states that Michigan is part of, from Minnesota to Pennsylvania, including Wisconsin and Michigan. When Vice President Harris picks her running mate, do you think it is important that that swath of the country be represented in her pick? I'm not asking you to pick a specific person, but there are a number of people from all the way from Minnesota all the way to Pennsylvania. Do you think that that should be a consideration?
Well, I think she's got to pick the person that's going to have her back, that can help step into the breach if, God forbid, they need to, and is ready to do that. I also think having a running mate who has their ear to the ground and is a real person talking to people every day will help her as she does the work of being the president. And so I do think someone from the Midwest would be great. That being said, it doesn't have to be someone from the Midwest, but there's got to be someone who can resonate with people and help get the work done and help win.
All right, it was worth a try. As we just said, winning Michigan is now top of mind for Democrats. I think it's fair to say Vice President Harris is not going to be the next president if she doesn't win Michigan. Fox News polling from last week shows that if the election were held today, Michigan voters would break 45% for Donald Trump, 43% for Kamala Harris, which is within the 3% margin of error. Harris performing slightly better than Biden was in early July, according to YouGov poll, which showed Biden at 40%, Trump at 42%, still within the margin of error. Do you think that Michigan is more gettable for Harris than it was for Biden? It was reported, although I know you disputed, that you were concerned about his ability to win Michigan. Is it better now?
Well, listen, I didn't dispute it. I'm concerned. I disputed how it was, the words that were attributed to me were not accurate.
Unwinnable was not accurate.
Correct. And Michigan's always going to be a battleground. Same with Pennsylvania, same with Wisconsin. You cannot take any of these states for granted. The road to the White House goes through these three states. And that's why I think it's so important that we have a huge presence. And what we're seeing in Michigan on the ground, I can tell you, as in campaign offices early last week, people are calling to volunteer. People are starting to make contributions. I mean, we're really seeing the surge energy. I was in New Hampshire at the end of the week on behalf of the vice president. 50 people we expect in the backyard in the middle of the day on a Friday. We had 250 show up. Last night, when I was in Pennsylvania with Josh Shapiro, we thought originally the planning was a couple hundred people. It was 1,300 people who stood in line for hours to be there for Josh and me. I mean, it's flattering, but we're not the principals, and yet we're seeing this great excitement around the Harris campaign. So I'm fired up, but I'm also sober. This is going to go down the wire in most of these states, and we can't take any person or any vote for granted.
So let's turn to the book, True Gretch, in which we are treated to this little ditty.
We ain't even about to stress. We got Big Gretch. You can find her in the press.
It's a catchy tune, isn't it?
Do you like it?
I love it.
How often do you actually listen to it?
I don't listen to it that often, but my sister has it as the ringtone when I call her.
So this song came out during COVID. You ultimately took it as a compliment, which is how it was intended, although your staff had to explain it to you. You write in the book. You saw it as people in Michigan seeing, or Detroit specifically, I guess, seeing you as having their back during COVID. And I wanted to ask you, because a lot of the book is about COVID. Obviously, it was a once-in-a-century kind of crisis. When you look back, would you have done anything different if you knew then what you know now, when it comes to schools, when it comes to the nursing home order that you put into place in April and rescinded in June? Would you have done anything different?
Oh, yeah. If I could go in a time machine with the knowledge we've accumulated and make different decisions along the way, sure. I think any leader worth their salt would say the same thing. None of us knew what we were confronting. It was a novel virus. We were building the plane as we were flying it in 50 different states, 50 different policies, and we had a White House that was not only disseminating misinformation, but they were pitting us against one another by telling us to go find our own masks and gloves. I talk about that in the book, this kind of Hunger Games style race that each of us was in just to get masks and gloves for our doctors and nurses when our hospitals were overwhelmed. So sure, I mean, knowing what we know now, if I could go back, I would certainly do some things different, but I'm proud of what we did. And I can tell you, the people of Michigan, I think, by and large, we got through this as well as we could, and we're seeing our economy growing, and there's a lot of good stuff going on, but it was a tough time.
What do you think would be the number one thing that you would do differently?
Well, think about what we were confronting, right? The knowledge of the last pandemic was from the 1918 flu that disproportionately hurt little kids, killed little kids, took lives of some of the youngest Americans. And I think one of our collective worries was that in our schools, if our kids were going and they were getting sick, that they would start dying. We did not know it was respiratory in nature. We didn't know that it would be people on the other end of the age spectrum who would be most vulnerable. And so I think that the education stuff, we would have been able to do a lot more to help our kids.
So you first emerged on the national stage, the first time a lot of people watching right now probably heard of you, when you shared the story on the state Senate floor of the horrible experience you had at Michigan State when you were raped. And you were minority leader. It was 2013 at the time. Republicans in the legislature were trying to push through a bill requiring women in Michigan to buy extra health insurance for abortion coverage, even in cases of rape and incest. I want to play this moment from your speech on the floor that day.
But over 20 years ago, I was a victim of rape. And thank God it didn't result in a pregnancy. Because I can't imagine going through what I went through and then having to consider what to do about an unwanted pregnancy from an attacker.
In terms of your public life, because you write about a lot of difficult things you've gone through in your life, your mother's death, the kidnapping and murder plot against you, do you think that was the toughest thing you've gone through?
It was tough. It's hard to even watch that. I can hear how close I am to crying in the middle of it. I tell the story, what this book really is the question I get asked the most as I am traveling across Michigan around the country is how do I stay positive when everything's so heavy? 28 recall attempts, a threat on my life, flooding and pandemics, etc. We had to navigate a lot of tough stuff. And so this is really things I've learned through my life that gives maybe people a little laugh at my expense, or there's a lesson that I use.
Well, you're laughing with them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a lesson here that'll be helpful to you navigating something in your own life, professionally or personally. That chapter where I talk about being raped and the fight on the floor that day is really a chapter called Never Give Up. And I fast forward 10 years after that speech, 10 years to the day, as a sitting governor, I was the one who signed the bill that repealed that law.
Yeah.
And so the fight took 10 years, longer than it should have, but it was worth it. And we stay committed to it. And I wanted to share that to give people hope. Like, it can feel hopeless. And there's so much at risk in this upcoming election. These fights are worth having, and we can win them, but we can't give up.
Your grandmother, Nina, taught you you can always find something nice to say about somebody. What's a nice thing you can tell us about Donald Trump and J.D. Vance?
Well, I can say this. Donald Trump has an uncanny ability to figure out what's going on in the political winds and to feed into it. I don't think it's ever for the purpose of solving a problem. It's about making, opportunities for himself. But he has been able to do that really well, and I think that's something we should never underestimate.
J.D. Vance?
He's from Ohio, and that's a Midwest state, and I like the Midwest.
That's all you got?
Well, I said yesterday in our rally in Pennsylvania, he's efficient. He insulted the Jewish population, women, and people of color all in one sentence. So that's efficient.
What sentence was that?
I'll look it up for you.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Right, look it up because I didn't hear it.
Is True Gretch, what I've learned about life, leadership, and everything in between. It is a very fun.
Well, I really don't care for her, but I did not know that she was R-worded, and so that gave me a little different perspective. Oh, wow. I wish I could. So anyway, I'm going to stay in Michigan because that's what I'm doing now. She's not my favorite person, but anyway. Oh, so Michigan, we got that listeria going on. So there's been a recall on vegetables, on vegetable trays and dips. That's been a recall. And this produce was distributed by Weirs, WEIRS Farm Incorporated, and it has expanded to include more vegetables and products because of the listeria. Listeria can cause serious and sometimes fatal infections in young children, elderly people with weakened immune systems. Symptoms include high fever, severe headache, nausea, abdominal pain, and diarrhea. The following items are included: pico guacamole, butternut squash cubes, chopped cilantro with white onions, diced jalapeno in the bag, diced pepper, tri-blend, diced pepper with white onions. Let me see, salsa mild, vegetable bowl, vegetable caboose, pico de gallo classic, pico de gallo classic medium, pico de gallo classic hot guacamole, Chucky mild, guacamole, Chucky medium, grilling vegetables, fajita mix hot. So those are some of the products to look out for. A massive military readiness exercise will unfold in Michigan this week. One of the Department of Defense largest reserve component readiness exercise is beginning on Saturday for 2 weeks. Northern Strike will run from August 3rd to the 17th and include more than 6,300 participants from 32 states and territories. The participants will gather for extensive training at Michigan National All-Domain War Fighting Center, which encompasses the Camp Grayling Joint Maneuver Training Center, the Alpena Compact Readiness Training Center, and their associate airspace. Oh, shoot. Um, Florida family that stumbled upon Mackinac Island hasn't stopped buying pieces of it. A love affair with northern Michigan that started 2 years ago with the acquisition of a family owned Mackinac Island ferry service has steadily expanded to other sectors and could inspire a Florida family to pursue more Michigan deals. So, a Florida family is buying up Mackinac Island. I wonder, is this the same? So, we got another recall in Michigan, a popular spice recall is ALB Enterprises Incorporated for their product branded ALB flavor. The cinnamon comes in a 100-gram plastic bag with distinctive brown cartoon design. The packaging features an image of cinnamon powder along with two cinnamon sticks at the bottom. So that is a recall. The recall is due to concerns about potential lead contamination in the product. Wow. Mm. Michigan residents targets of new door-to-door scam. Let me see. Michigan residents need to be aware of new door-to-door scam that's been going around. Let me see what they're doing. One of the most convincing scammers are those that are offering you a service because you believe they are either doing it out of the kindness of their heart or trying to get their small business some exposure. While this may be true, sometimes you must be cautious when you allow people to come to your door and do services. Once they have your information, there's a number of things that could go wrong, like them trying to upsell you on a service, identity theft, or other damaging things to your namesake and livelihood. So while being nice is what we should do, you could also become a target of fraud. Senior citizens are the most vulnerable people. So people are going door to door offering you a service just to get some information from you and are committing fraud in your name. So be aware of that. I already told you about Rite Aid is closing all its 50 stores in the state of Michigan and Ohio. So they closed at 33 locations in Michigan and 17 in Ohio. This is a total of 60 closure in these states. Rite Aid already planned to shut down 12 stores in Michigan and 15 in Ohio. And so Whitehead has filed a worker adjustment and retraining notification with Michigan Department of Technology Management and Budget, signaling they plan to close their Waterford distribution center, which will lead to 191 jobs lost. So Rite Aid is officially done. Grand Rapids, a Michigan woman who repeatedly passed herself off as a nurse despite no formal training can now add another title to her resume. Letitia Galazzo, 49, had conviction in 2 states for impersonating a registered nurse. She was supposed to appear in federal courtroom this week, but was a no-show. It is clear that today she has zero respect for the law. She is an extreme danger to the public, and it's just a matter of time before her antics truly injure someone. Stella says a prison term of slightly more than 6 years is warranted for her posing. She got 14 months in prison in Texas and then had more time tacked on for identity theft and shoplifting. So they are looking for this woman impersonating as a nurse. Let's see, what time is I'm about to get off of here? Mm. EE1 Global files for bankruptcy, Chapter 11 in the Eastern District of Detroit, operating under various names, including EEI Graphics, Exhibit Enterprise. The agency employs 130 professionals and will undergo a restructuring to manage its estimated liabilities between 10 and 50 million. EI Global will continue to operate by restructuring its debts. Another bankruptcy. FBI is warning its residents of a new crime called jugging. A new crime trend had led to law enforcement warning everyone to be careful at ATMs. Jugging is when robbers count how much money, you know, I go. So that's like they know you got like 5 20s or whatever. That's what jugging is. Jigging refers to a crime in which a suspect or group of suspect targets customers believed to have large amount of cash. The perpetrators either rob customers while in the parking lot of a bank, credit union, or ATM, or follow them to their next location. The FBI issued a warning about jugging after 21 reports of this crime took place in the city of Baltimore. Jugging is not just a Maryland or Washington, D.C. thing. This crime is spreading like wildfire throughout the country. Wow. So be on the lookout. Yeah, I'm about to get off of here. Let me see. 1/4 of Michigan workforce makes less than $17 an hour. I don't even know how you could survive making under $17 an hour. 1/4 of Michigan workforce make less than $17 an hour. 29% of women and 35% of Black workers in Michigan fell below that line. New data shows just 13% of U.S. workers earn less than $15 an hour. 2 years ago, that number was 31.9%. Why it matters? Inflation. $15 an hour in 2024 has some same buying power as it does if you made 14 in 2022. It is meaningful for millions of Americans who need every additional dollar they earn. Surely is. In Michigan, 1,218,202 workers make less than $17 an hour. Of course, 22.7% are white, 35% are Black, 34.8% are Hispanic, and 18.8% are Asian American or American Indian. More than 24% of Michigan workers make less than 17 per hour, slightly above the national average of 23%. Wages are higher now in part because of inflation's strong labor market, where lower wage employees are still in high demand. but it's also due to work of advocates who pushed for minimum wage increases for more than a decade. Because people had more money, they were able to hold out for higher paying positions. Wow. I think I'm going to put it right there. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. And I'm going to have to come back because there's so much happening. Thank y'all.